This is a book called Sweet Dreams, Philosophical Obstacles to a Science of Consciousness by Dennett. And I just want to read the opening paragraph from Chapter 2, A Third-Person Approach to Consciousness. The first chapter in this book deals with zombies, and it's a bit of a sort of opening, well, it's kind of an opening verse, really, just to set up some of the ideas of what the problems of consciousness might be. The book really starts, I think, in Chapter 2, Third-Person Approach to Consciousness. So I'm just going to read this paragraph out, and then I just want to talk a little bit about the language it uses. He says this, he says, consciousness is often celebrated as a mystery beyond science, impenetrable from the outside, however intimately known to each of us from the inside. I think this tradition is not just a mistake, but a serious obstacle to ongoing scientific research that can explain consciousness just as deeply and completely as it can explain other natural phenomena. Metabolism, reproduction, continental drift, light, gravity, and so on. In order to lay or clarify the foundations for this research, I will begin by considering claims about the supposed limits of all such scientific investigations of consciousness. That's the opening paragraph in this chapter. What really jumps out at me from that paragraph is the use of the language, really, the use of metaphor in talking about this. Because he's talking about consciousness as a kind of object of knowledge, or an area of knowledge, a zone of knowledge, kind of like a defined space of knowledge, or as an object existing within a defined space. And most of his language seems to indicate a sort of spatial relationship to that object of knowledge. So he says, for example, it's a mystery beyond science. Beyond is a spatial term. It means outside of the range of, or it suggests an area of space or a distance laid out on the ground as something we might walk, like I'm walking across this car park right now. And then this object of consciousness lies at the other side of it, beyond it, as he says. So there's something to do with space. Impenetrable from the outside. So this object of knowledge we call consciousness is not only beyond the space in which we're standing, the space of knowledge, the space of science, but it's also bounded itself in a very particular way that prevents us from getting into it and prevents us from finding out more about it. He also says that this idea is a serious obstacle to ongoing scientific research. So the fact that scientific research in this case is ongoing suggests that this space that we're standing in, when we're proceeding through, that we are walking towards this boundary of knowledge, or pushing that boundary back through experimental processes. The perimeter of our knowledge is being constantly moved forward in our progress, our ongoing progress, he says. But there are obstacles, he says, obstacles to this path that we're making towards the object of consciousness, and the object of consciousness that is obstructed here, or the object that's forming the obstruction, is our own ability to conceive of it. He goes on, not only is there an obstacle to ongoing scientific research, because it can be explained just as deeply and completely as we explain other natural phenomena. So there's not only a sense of an extensible space existing in two dimensions, but it also has depth that we can plumb. But unfortunately, we can't get to it because there's an obstacle in it, and it's also beyond the range of our consciousness. So it's outside this like the little space of scientific knowledge. So he says, in order to lay or clarify the foundations of this research, here I think he's switching metaphor a little bit here. He's building a foundation, and this is drawing on an idea of knowledge being a building of some sort. But I think it's, in this sense, what is he building a foundation for? I think one way of conceptualizing this is it's a kind of foundation for a structure on which we could stand. You know, as Newton said, if I've seen further than other men, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants. The foundation, I think, that Dennett's suggesting here is the foundation for a structure which will allow us to see out over this land of knowledge, see beyond the boundaries of knowledge, and get a good look at this object of knowledge called consciousness. He says we're going to lay the foundations. And he begins, as he says, by considering claims about the supposed limit of all such scientific investigations of consciousness. There we have it again, this idea of these supposed limits. But whilst he's talking about it, of course, he's always still inhabiting, very firmly inhabiting, the language of space and of knowledge as objects within space, or as knowledge as zones within space, of experimentation as a pushing back of a boundary towards an object or towards an extent of space. The one slightly odd sentence in this one is the second sentence, or the second part of the first sentence. He says, after he says it's a mystery, consciousness is a mystery impenetrable from the outside, he goes on to say, however intimately known to us from the inside. Because consciousness, although he compares it to metabolism, reproduction, continental drift and so on, it has this unique feature. Although on the one hand we perceive it as being over there, as being an object of knowledge, like an object in the real world, although possibly so far away that it's beyond our ability to see clearly without building some sort of structure on which to stand, or without pushing our way towards it. On the one hand he's conceiving it like that, but also acknowledging that we do, each of us, know this intimately from the inside. So not only are we here looking out over the object, we're also inhabiting the object in an odd sort of way and feeling it from the inside. We're seeing it from the outside, but feeling it from the inside. And that's one of the great challenges. I'm not sure this book really takes up that challenge, but certainly a lot of the challenges within consciousness research is about uniting those metaphors, really. A metaphor of seeing involving space and light and distance, and a metaphor of feeling involving haptics and sense and emotional contact.